What's up, everybody, and welcome back to GG Gaming. I'm your host and player one, Andrew, and with me I have a player two today. Would you like to introduce yourself, Kevin?
You just introduced me.
That's true. Well, would you like to talk more about yourself?
Yes, I would like to talk more about myself. Thank you for asking.
Well, I don't want to listen. No, go ahead.
Oh, you mean on the recording? You want people to listen to me?
Yeah, sure. You can go ahead.
Well, first thing I want to do is I want to apologize for all the listeners out there that have to deal with my godly voice. Because you just will not be able to be satisfied with anyone else after you hear this podcast. So I'm sorry to you, I'm sorry to your family, and your future, and whatever damage it may cause.
You're fired. All right.
Okay. So I write. I've got several books that I self-published. Yeah, I know everybody can self-publish, but nobody can write as well as I can, as far as I'm concerned. You need an ego.
Okay.
You need an ego for this business. So, I wrote John Rocket Volume 1, which is, it's historical fantasy science fiction, and it's got some serious topics in there, but, about 15% of it's some super antics. It's mostly about the superhero's life, real life. He's a black man, and about Denver around 1953, all that good stuff. So you can imagine the fun in reading those serious events. But there are a few ninja, and then of course I have a fun one, Davin McDurrin and Krur. Krur was about Black Panther in India, and David McDurrin's about a Maverick-style card player, half-demon. And
well, actually, in past episodes here and there, I've spoken a little bit about Davin because I mentioned that I was working on the game, but
you broke the NDA?
Oh my
dude,
God.
I gotta sue you now.
Oh
joking.
my God.
No.
After you begged me to talk about it, I was...
I don't remember.
Because I never remember anything either. But I was gonna say you can talk a little bit about it if you'd like, because I'm guessing there are certain things that maybe, as the writer and creator and god of Davin, you probably know a bit more of what you want to elaborate on.
Well,
I'm just a lowly artist.
I just really like the old westerns, like Maverick and stuff, and I love the old Maverick TV show. Not every show is great, but a lot of them are. And I also love the Wild Wild West, the TV show, not the movie. Although I do think the movie was a pretty good movie, it just wasn't the Wild Wild West. They could have done the movie as its own title, and it would have been more widely accepted, I should say. But with Davin, I thought I'd stick in some demons and stuff like that, and have a little bit of the supernatural in with the natural, and I hate talking about plans of what I want to do with Davin, because the only thing people have to see are your sketches, which are fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And my short story. But
which is pretty cool.
Well, yeah, it's a short story. It's fun. I would personally rate it 3 out of 5, just because it's not anything deep. It's just kind of light fun, and
it's a fun short story.
Well, yeah, and it's not going to win a Hugo, but it's something that people can enjoy. I hope who like that genre. But like with the game, I really want to have it in chapters, and each chapter is a full-fledged story, maybe with some things like some episodes or topics of episodes from Bonanza or Maverick or Wild Wild West. Wild Wild West was more like James Bond, for those who don't know. Maverick was very much like the movie Maverick. I think the movie hit the nail right on the head. It's a fantastic movie.
Out of all of those, the only thing I saw was what you sent me. I don't remember if it was Maverick or... It was cool. It was the one with I think there was a teacher or something.
Oh, that was Bonanza, and that was really Bonanza. A lot of people make fun of Bonanza, and I think it's undeserved in some respects because when people joke about it too much, they lose the serious episodes that were very topical for the 60s and 70s. And in the Wild West setting, and
that was certainly alive back then.
Well, yeah, and well, the school teacher one, the one reading. Oh no, the 4 R's, I think is what it was called.
I have no
idea.
And
I think the fourth R was supposed to be revenge, but Purnell Roberts. Oh God, what is Adam Cartwright? I'm ashamed for not remembering that right off the top of my head.
I'm not ashamed for not
well,
knowing what you're talking about.
You have no culture. I'm joking. No, so Adam Cartwright, the whole episode is Adam Cartwright takes over the schoolhouse, the local schoolhouse, to try and teach kids about the history of Virginia City. And he starts looking at some old land grants and everything, and all of a sudden, there's a force in town that doesn't want him to do that. And Adam was doing it just to educate people on where they came from, the history of the Indian tribes in that area, and all that stuff. So, he's really interested in giving the kids something to learn. That's the plot. He discovers that there's this huge push, and all of a sudden, people are starting to take pot shots. And then he realizes that the land was founded on, a couple people who intentionally robbed the reservation of some natural resources in order to claim them for their own by moving the boundaries like less than a quarter of an inch on the map, so nobody could see the official survey. And so the whole thing deals with it's like a detective story, a murder mystery, and it eventually has a good ending, or as good as it can be. Some people actually go to jail, that type of thing. But
yeah,
I want to have something like that as one or two of the stories in Davin, and I don't really want to tell more because if I tell more,
call it like the 4 R's, except. Like, you should get away with it by calling like the 5 R's or something.
Well, no, it's not going to be the same story. It's just I just wanted to point out the, a type of similarity of the seriousness of the topics I want to cover, and like with Davin, it's maybe the demons, the supernatural, supernatural force behind what's gone wrong. Maybe there isn't a supernatural force, or maybe there's a mixture. That's my plans with the.
Is it mostly? Demon in every chapter?
What? I'm sorry.
Was there a demon in every chapter?
Or
at least for the most part.
Well, there's going to be Davin, but let me think here. You know what? Let me think here.
You should also talk about the gameplay because I thought it was really unique.
There's one second though. The final chapter. I can actually get rights for the music for Exodus. And people who know that movie, it's a very controversial movie. In some respects, it supports some actions that I don't think were legal internationally. But in other respects, it really does support the idea for the state of Israel, which has to exist. It's a very controversial for a number of reasons because not everybody likes the entire movie. And anyway, so
which movie was this?
Exodus.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, it's a really heavy movie about Israel and the Jewish populace finding the Promised Land, recovering from World War II, etc., etc., etc. So in many ways, it's a very good movie. In some ways, there are some serious ideological flaws about certain aspects of some of the characters. I won't get into that because I don't want people saying, accusing you of anything or accusing me of anything.
I don't care if they accuse you.
Well, that's true.
Anyway, technically, I mean, as much as I want to stay away from talking about politics and religion, but technically you're talking about a movie.
Well, yes, I am. And I'm talking about a movie here, and I'm not specifying anything that I may or may not disagree with here. So nobody jump to conclusions, right? If you want to talk to me on my side, go ahead. But
all 9 listeners.
Yeah, all 9 listeners. I think people, in general, I think people need a place to live. So let me put it at that. And so everybody deserves where they live, to live peacefully.
I deserve to live everywhere.
Peacefully and healthfully and life pursuit, the happiness, all that good stuff. But the point is,
hole deeper. No.
The point is, it's a very good, great soundtrack. And I have this plan for the final episode, and I was talking to the Warner Brothers licensing department. The guy seemed really interested in it, but, I need the artwork and everything finished before I can pursue that actual license. But, if I don't get that license, I won't get that license, but I think there's a real good chance that I could use it, and I'd love to use it for the final chapter. No demons. There will be magic in there. There will be some magic in there that Davin uses. And that's
in the story, you mean?
Yeah, in the story.
So that final chapter?
Yeah, for the final chapter. But another chapter is Mississippi Riverboat with hard as nails, old white guy who may or may not be a thief.
That riverboat man?
That guy that I really want to put in the demo. The best way to describe him would be a J.R. Ewing, if you've ever seen Dallas. Only maybe not as evil. I'm not going to let the people know. In fact, I may not even let them know after they beat the chapter. They may just never know if the guy is pure evil, or maybe he's looking out for number 1, or maybe he's actually a good guy and he's just hard as nails because he had to deal with a lot of crap in the Wild West. Who knows? I don't really want you to know, but if you cheat while playing against him, he's going to blow your face off. And of course, then there's going to be a Spider Witch.
You should talk about how you're actually able to cheat in the game.
Yes, cheating. I'll get to that.
Okay.
But you know what? Honestly, I can't remember what the other 2 guys were. Oh yeah, and Samuel. I can't remember what the other 2 guys were for the game. I have it all written down. It's a little bit late for me, but the game's going to go through changes. Nothing is set in stone except for the gameplay. And Andrew, you're right. I have to talk about the gameplay. The gameplay,
which is actually pretty cool.
In almost every single poker game there is right now, they don't program poker tells. For those of you who play poker, a tell is when you're lying and your eyes dart to the left or something like that, right? Or maybe you have you cough or you sneeze. Maybe you arrange your cards a special way. Subconscious movements your body makes. Almost all the poker games out now, they only give tells to the opponent, make the player feel like they're safe and protected. In Davin, you are part of the tell system too, and it's kind of like a cross between a text adventure, or something like Phoenix Wright or Zork, for those of you who have played adventure games. And there's also going to be a poker element in there. And with the poker element, you can use magic or verbal communication to screw with your opponent. Every time you do, though, you risk blowing your own tell. And if you blow your own tell, the computer will know, or will have a better calculation percentage for guessing what's in your hand. And in addition to that, you can also try to cheat at poker, distract them, and then just click the cheat button. Now, you could try to cheat with magic, you could try to cheat with sleight of hand. Obviously, some characters you're just never going to be able to cheat. Like
well, certain characters react differently.
Well, yeah.
Like each character is unique.
Right. Like the old man that Rusty Gilligan designed for us, the Western guy. He'll tell when somebody's cheating against him. He won't stop them, but he'll just give you like a negative appreciation for you. You try to speak to him afterwards, he'll just always look down on you. So you'll be kind of screwed unless you engage him in another game and you just kind of let him win, or you apologize to him, stuff like that. The old riverboat captain, he just flats out kills you. You know what I mean? You cheat against him, you're dead. The Spider Witch.
And I got to draw him shooting you.
Yeah. That's a good little three frame animation there.
Boy, thank you.
You only need 3 frames because, the guy's the quick draw and then you're dead, The Spider Witch...
All you see before you die.
The Spider Witch tries to cheat you with
sexy.
Magic.
Because I drew her sexy.
Yes. And she's just pure on evil. And if you use magic, there's going to be a risk if you use magic. I'm not going to say what it is right now because I haven't really decided. But that's because my decisions are limited by exactly what I can and can't, do when I start programming it. So I try to leave my options open. But, she's got her, web of confusion, and she'll try to change the appearance of the cards and stuff like that, and you have to try and deal with that and figure out whether or not she's screwed with your hand, and you may have a slightly better hand than you do. So it's going to be... there are going to be a lot of little nuances that I'm going to try to put in there, as simple as I can make them, while making them appear as if they add another dimension of play, because I do want to add another dimension of play, whether it's in your mind or whether it's actually part of the game.
Right. We actually had a couple ideas of we had the adventure game, and then we also were thinking of taking the demo into a spin-off of just the poker games, because the adventure game itself, the poker games are incorporated into it, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's the main draw of the adventure. It's more of a part of it. And and as you were explaining to me, if you really don't want to play the poker, you can skip that altogether and still enjoy the game.
Right. And the thing is, a straight poker game, and that is what we have been considering doing, and that's what we're trying to work toward. We get the poker game out there. We can sell the straight poker game. If people just want to play poker, then that'll help us make money for the adventure game, or we put it on Kickstarter and all that good stuff. Programming adventure games, I know this just from writing choose your own adventure book and a choose your own Zork style adventure game. It's a lot of effort because you have to choose multiple endings. If you don't choose multiple endings, it's just gonna friggin' suck. All right, or at least multiple avenues. Like Zork, there was only there were only 2 ways to really beat Zork. One was with all the points, and one was with just being able to beat the game. Right?
Well, that's a that's like a whole separate topic that we could delve into, and that is the end result of certain video games, like why people play games and what they expect out of them. For me, I'm not always I wouldn't necessarily say I like multiple endings more than a specific ending, because I actually enjoy a story being told to me. I mean, yeah, choosing your own adventure is fun too, but it's kind of like playing through a movie. It's like I want the end-all, be-all canon story told to me. I don't want to have to guess oh, that was fun, but which one is the right one?
Well, see, that's just no. I understand.
That's just my OCD.
Well, the thing with Davin is that you will know which is the best story because it will tell you. It'll just flat out tell you.
So you suck. You got the wrong ending.
Well, no, I mean it will say you got this ending, which is what a lot of, which is I think okay. I just have to say this is fascinating to me. The USA created the adventure game. We created flat out. Nobody else did it. We have since then basically abandoned it after Activision bought up all the adventure game companies, like Infocom, which produced Zork and all that stuff. They just killed the idea. And then, like, little tiny startups tried to do their version of adventure games, but they were just, most of them were just absolute crap. A lot of the others were just point-and-click games. They weren't actual adventure games. They were just, pictures on the wall, right? Well, Japanese really picked up on the adventure game concept and have made some fantastic adventure games. I have to take that back. In the last 10 years, who was it? I gotta look this up. I can't believe I can't remember their names. Telltale Games.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of that lately.
Their adventure games are outstanding, and it's only been in the last 4 years that they've been considered a AAA studio. But they were doing it way back then. They tried to revive Sam.
When were they formed?
What?
When were they formed?
Oh God, I know some of their big stuff was out at least in 2006, but let me look at this.
While you look that up, I wanted to mention that I think a great way to approach multiple endings while having a canon ending is what Chrono Trigger did, where you have the canon ending. The alternate endings are something you could do by actively going against the story, like, oh, well, I'm going to fight the main villain now. But most of the time, it's really because you're on New Game Plus and you're strong enough to do it. So it's really like you're unofficially locked into getting the main ending first. And then you're like, well, now I could check out all the other endings, and you have a reason to play the game again.
Well, I understand that idea. I don't really want to do that with Davin. Telltale Games was formed in 2004, so that explains why I was thinking of 2006, because some of their... what was it that came out in 2006? They announced Sam and Max in 2005, and I think they put one of them out in 2006 or something like that. A demo version of Sam and Max Save the World was out in 2007. So yeah, they were really ramping it up from 2004 on. I think that they should be considered a AAA studio since 2014.
I mean, they're not?
2010. 2010, they were making yearly revenues of $10 million, 90% greater than the previous year. So that was a huge jump for them.
What would you consider make something a AAA title?
I think that I think AAA, it depends on who's talking about what. Some people say they have to be pulling down six figures with every game. But if you're talking about six figures every game, then you have to scratch Konami and Capcom off the list, because they haven't really been doing that.
I actually want to, when we get into the games coming up and news, there's some Konami stuff I wanted to mention.
Oh yeah.
But we'll get to that.
Anyway,
we're almost at the halfway mark.
Oh, okay.
So I wouldn't say rush. I'm just saying, a heads up. I usually try to keep the show about an hour. Sometimes I go over a little bit more, just because I don't want you guys, the viewer, to be like, oh God, I've heard these guys too much today.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, I mean, you asked though, what do I consider AAA?
Yes,
I think that AAA is market penetration. If you're seeing your games being hosted,
penetration.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I really mean it. If you're seeing your games being broadcasted by Steam, Steam and GOG.com, and being advertised alongside GameStop commercials, or if you're having that sort of penetration where everybody knows your game, and you're making millions, and you're consistently making a profit, I think that you're a AAA studio. And yes, that would mean Sorry about that. I had a little beep. And yes, that would mean that some startup indie producers are like a AAA produce a AAA product. Maybe they're not a AAA studio, but they produce a AAA product. Like Fez is clearly a AAA product that he put a lot of intelligence and design into there. It may not be lifelike realism, but not all AAA games have to be lifelike realism. He is making a consistent profit. His game was. I don't think he is anymore. But Shovel Knight, that's extremely popular.
So
I think that was a AAA product because it eventually turned out to tap into a marketplace that people wanted. They thought it was high quality, and it's bringing in the money. So, high quality and tapping into market penetration, all of that has different meaning to different people. I think that it's just, if you're bringing in the revenue, you're bringing in the audience, and you're on the store shelves, and people, if you walk down the street and say, Shovel Knight, and half of the gamers turn around and say, yeah, then you reach that. Knight. Yeah. Minecraft, as bad as the coding is for Minecraft, it is a AAA product,
Well, going back to Davin, one of the things about Davin was that we kind of slowed down on the progress only because you were working on another game that I was talking about last couple of weeks, Baby Eater. And what I didn't realize on the last show, unless I'm thinking 2 shows ago, was that it's actually out. And I didn't know if you I'm sure you'd like to talk a bit about it. I was mentioning how I was doing the artwork for the the promotional 2-page comic for it. Was there anything you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, the first thing is I'm going to have to report you to our Satanistic cult for talking about our game and talking about our weekly Sunday dinners without permission.
Again, says the man who begs me. No. No. And now we just keep throwing each other under the bus here.
No, I'm not throwing you under the bus. I'm putting you on the sacrificial altar. Big difference. I plan on summoning a demon from your corpse.
But I'm immortal.
No, I'm joking. I'm
immortal.
I of course, you guys can guess how we treat each other in real life just by our conversation right now.
Our business is very casual. With a lot of curses and emoji faces.
Yeah, I mean, remember that time where I had Homeland Security come knocking on your door and just impounding everything you own? Oh, wait, that hasn't happened
You remember
yet.
that tournament we held between all of our assassins that tried to, we hired to kill each other? And in the end, it ended up, the whole place got destroyed. We really didn't have a winner. But secretly, I know that my guy was going to win.
I let you destroy a movie studio. I'm still safe in my house.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so we're off topic. Baby Eater. It's a cookbook on how to kill babies.
It's such a great cookbook. I've made some great baby meals.
We've had a lot of resistance from parent groups. No, it's ribs. Just listen, babe. I actually needed Andrew to
baby ribs.
I actually needed
Chili.
I need to get Andrew to do some more artwork, and he's been busy, rightfully so, because he has to make money and he has a day job. And Davin is going to take a lot of artwork, and it's also going to take a lot of programming. I did have some small issues with the poker shuffling program. And then I have to figure out exactly how to make a poker. Anyway, those. I'm not going to bore you guys with the details. There are some issues with how I want to handle the poker game that are just going to be a problem if I don't figure them out ahead of time. Okay, so as far as Davin goes, I do have to wait for Andrew to get a little bit of artwork in there. He's busy.
There was a
he has
couple
a
other
job.
people working on stuff too.
Right, and Alan is a good guy, and I'm sure that Alan is wondering why we haven't talked to him. You got to talk to him and tell him that we love him and to stay with us and that we're going to marry him. Okay? Make sure he knows that we're still engaged.
I already gave him the ring.
Okay, so but I mean, this type of thing, even the regular poker thing, requires a lot of artwork, and it also requires a lot of planning. I need to know exactly how I'm going to program certain things. If I don't know how to program them before I start, I could actually create a giant mess, and that I won't be able to unravel. So, seeing as how this thing will probably take another freaking year.
Decade.
Yeah, I decided to program another game to try and put some sort of market presence for my business outside of my books, and so I did Baby Eater, and Baby Eater, I just wanted to do a quick arcade game. It's called a catcher, and a catcher is when something falls from the top ceiling. It's profile view like Castlevania would be, but only one screen, where something falls from the ceiling and you run over and you try to catch it in a basket or something. And most of the classic arcade catchers would have you run to the edge of the screen to turn it in and empty your basket, because you can't catch too much stuff in your basket, right? So I used an old property I had, which is part of the grown-up Puppy Rain universe, and
which is another series of yours.
Yeah. I decided to use this other property I had, which is part of the Puppy Rain universe, and that property has the story of Emor, which is, Rome, spelled backwards, where this vampire queen comes in, wipes out almost all of the royal families, turns the princess into a vampire, and forces her to watch forces the princess to watch as she kills the rest of her family, right? Because she wants the princess to convince the people not to uprise against them, some sort of nonsense, in one respect. But, as the story goes on, you find out that the princess actually has to turn over the people under her power to the vampire queen, so the vampire queen can have ownership over them. Well, that's the long story. That's not part of this Baby Eater to the audience's knowledge, right? The audience knowledge, you just know a little bit about it. It's Procunis, or Procunis, however you want to pronounce it, depending on which part of Italy you're from. It has
I'm from
this
the
nightmare.
part that's America.
What?
I'm from the part that's America.
Yes.
How would I pronounce it?
Little Italy. I don't know. You ask your parents. You ask your family. So, anyway, so the story is this is the part after the princess is turned into a vampire and she's forced, her body reassembles in the sarcophagus in the family crypts, right? Well, the queen tries to torture her with this nightmare of babies falling down and dying and hitting the ground and all that stuff. So
Splat.
The princess, she's trying to break the princess's will. So when the princess wakes up, she asks if the princess will give her people, and the princess will say no, and then she's killed again just to reform and have that nightmare over and over and over. So the game is you're playing in her nightmare, and you have to save all of the babies from level 1 through level 256. And it's an arcade game, and as people who are familiar with arcade games know, 255 registries were, like basically full registries, and 256 was like a half registry because of the memory limit, with the x86 system, whatever it was that they used. I think x86 is still 256 upper limit. But either way,
no idea.
The thing is, 256 would almost always be glitched. So I made this classic 8-bit arcade game glitch on level 256, And I also put in a cheat code, which almost all 8-bit games had a cheat code. You can use that cheat code to level skip up to 256. Since it's an arcade game and it's score-based, skipping levels doesn't really help you except, lets you see and lets you practice and all that stuff. In fact, it's probably better if you start out at level 1 for a higher score.
Yeah, probably.
So it's just a basic idea. You running back and forth, saving babies, looping around, getting a bonus level every 8 levels, and then going through the loop again. And all that good stuff. I copied for the actual cover of the box art, the fake box art. I can't say I copied because I didn't really copy, but I emulated a similar. Well, it's a similar look, very similar look to the Sega Master System, and including with the rule book. I changed some things. People who have a Sega Master System will notice that. And
you took my incomplete artwork.
Yes, that's the point, though, man. That's the point. The artwork on those boxes were almost never complete. Completed. They're almost always incomplete or half there, and it would drive people nuts. It would drive kids nuts.
Oh, really?
You need to look up. Okay, for all the listeners out there.
My first video game was Jurassic Park on Sega Genesis. My first video game system was Sega Genesis.
That's 16-bit. That's 16-bit, dude. Okay, now 16-bit.
Oh, that's 32.
Sega Genesis was 16. The 32X was 32.
You're right.
Now the thing is, 16-bit artwork they actually had some pretty good box art with the 16-bit, but the 8-bit art, Cinemassacre, the angry video game nerd.
Yeah.
He did a video on worst box art for the NES.
He did.
Those of you who don't believe me about how bad 8-bit game artwork was, go and watch that video. Now, I'm not saying that all artwork for 8-bit games was bad, and I'm not saying that Andrew's is bad. I intentionally took unfinished artwork from Andrew to put it on the cover because it has that look to it. It has that perfect look to it. And, a finished artwork wouldn't work as well, right? So
basically, you made my awesome art terrible.
No, I didn't. I made it 8-bit classic is what I did. I made it classic. Now there are some games. One such game, the Phantasy Star series, started out 8-bit. Of course, I think it was actually on the computer at one point, but it was on the Sega Master System. Phantasy Star had fantastic artwork on almost all their boxes. So, there are some exceptions. But, you go back and look at the original box art for Super Mario Brothers. Mario is in his one of the original box arts for Mario is he's in his fire power-up suit, and he's throwing a fireball, and all it is the pixel art of him and a fireball, and that's it. And then there's one with him and the fireball, and then there's Duck Hunt underneath it, the Mario and Duck Hunt combo pack. But that was Nintendo's big game, Mario. And what did they have for box art? They had a stupid little pixel art, the cheapest, chintziest looking cover. And
it's not that bad.
Well, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's cheap. There's some.
I'm looking at some bad artwork right now.
Yeah, you're looking at bad artwork. Mario 2, they had him grabbing a turnip and jumping out. That was the first really good Mario artwork. Mario 3 was a really cool one where he's in his raccoon suit. Listen, you're a kid, you're 8 years old, you're seeing a raccoon, Mario dressed up as a raccoon flying out of a box. That's freaking awesome. Okay. Then you had things like Metal Gear Solid, where it was Metal Gear. Oh God, which one was it?
Yeah, it was just Metal Gear, Metal Gear, and Metal Gear 2 were the original ones, right?
Yeah.
Was that 8 or 16?
That would be 8-bit. But the guy, Konami, they hired a guy to do the box art, and they wanted it to look really good. It's a fantastic box art. It's actually a ripoff, a complete and total ripoff of the original Terminator movie. One of the teaser posters for the original Terminator movie, which shows Kyle Reese. Kyle Reese was the hero. And he's in the same exact position and everything as Solid Snake on that Metal Gear box.
And that would be an homage.
No, it's ripping him off. You can't do that. You can't do that anymore. Because of modeling rights and copyrights for how a model looks, a model could turn around and sue you for copying their looks that closely.
Huh.
And one big case was with Vampire the Masquerade trading card game. I have the original Vampire, and I have the reprint Vampire. The original Vampire, she was a model in a Victoria's Secrets catalog. She turned around and sued White Wolf Studios for millions for using her likeness and not paying her modeling fees.
Really?
Yeah. So you gotta, artists have gotta watch out. A lot of times artists can get away with a lot of stuff, but no, the moment they start making money...
Like selling fan art at conventions?
Well, it's not it's so much fan art that's getting artists in trouble. It's them taking other artists' artwork and then selling prints of that and getting in trouble. Some companies are suing fan art from artists who are drawing like Spawn and selling them. I don't think Image is doing that, actually. Spawn's a bad example because I don't think Image is actually doing that. But there were a couple of characters that people were drawing at conventions. No longer, you don't do it anymore. I'd have to look up at comicbookresources.com to figure out which characters it was again, but some of those artists were getting sued, and they were being blacklisted from conventions because they were told to either come up with their own stuff or not sell even fan art. So, that's a different topic anyway.
Yes. Well, now that we're more than halfway through, I did want to talk about, what was it? I saw that I didn't watch it yet, but I saw there was a new trailer for oh crap, what's the name of Kojima's new game? Death Stranding, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
He basically said, "Fuck Konami."
Well, his full quote. Let me get the full quote up here.
I got it. It says, "Canceling Silent Hills is one of the most moronic things I've ever witnessed." End quote.
Well, no, it wasn't quite in quote right there. It was right after that where he said, "Fuck Konami."
Yeah, it was, "Fuck Konami. Canceling Silent Hills is one of the most moronic things I've ever witnessed." It's weird that he's saying it now, though.
Well, he's saying it now because Kojima was just awarded a huge award. What was that? It was just the last 2 days.
And I heard about the award. I just don't remember what it was called. Man, I feel like I keep knowing what you're talking about, and every time I'm like, oh yeah, I know, but I don't know what it was called.
Well, it's basically like a Lifetime Achievement Award to some degree. But what's it called? What's it actually called?
I'm trying to find it right now.
I had it on my...
it was at the Game Awards.
It's Industry Icon Award. Industry Icon Award for video games is like saying the guy is a god. And all these other video game producers, anybody who's involved in the industry icon, in the industry at all, they're allowed to vote. And it was like almost, he just won hands down, right? That's why they're giving him the award, because everyone said give him the award.
Now, were they all saying it because they wanted to give a middle finger to Konami, you think?
Oh, of course they did. That's why they gave him the award 1 year after he announced his split from Konami.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that how do you as a company bounce back from that? And Kojima has his faults.
You don't. You don't bounce back.
You don't bounce back,
I'd be surprised.
Even with the faults that Kojima has, you don't bounce back from kicking somebody like that out of your company, and especially when your punk ass CEO who's a new CEO, comes in and says, well, "I'm going to concentrate on pachinko for all of our titles," as if pachinko and casinos are going to keep Konami afloat, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen. They're going to experience a catastrophic failure like
I think
Capcom
the only
did.
way they can recover is if they get rid of some of their, or all of their, upper CEOs and management.
They would have to
And
get, yeah, exactly. They would have to get
basically,
rid.
they would have to fire themselves.
Exactly. Well,
And they're not going to.
the shareholders can fire them. In a sense, they can fire them. It wouldn't be like the shareholders walk into the boardroom, but the shareholders could start slamming down on them, forcing them to slowly push people out, and then push the CEO out.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only way that Konami can fail. It can not fail. They're doing good enough failing right now. Okay, this is the only way that they can really bounce back. And I'm not saying this because I'm some sort of industry know-it-all. I'm saying this as a gamer who has listened to a billion other people say the very same thing. So I'm not saying anything new here. The only thing that can help Konami at this point, from what everyone else says, and I think they make sense, is if either
They
one
die.
they do what Andrew said, and half or more of the boardrooms removed, period, and is replaced by a new set of people who actually appreciate all of their titles, everything they've ever done, their history of being a fantastic game production company, and then one of them walks over to Kojima and says, "Please forgive us. We've dishonored you and dishonored ourselves.
And then commit.
Give us another Silent Hill. Give us another Metal Gear. You can produce it through your small studio. We'll publish it. Let's partner up." Because Kojima's never going to work for them again. He owns his own studio now. He is making fantastic headway, and he will build his life around what has happened, right?
He's pretty much partnered with Sony now, and I believe they have way more money than Konami.
Well, we're talking a publisher and everything else. I've seen 4 publishers get in bed with each other, and produce something great. I've also seen 4 publishers get in bed with each other and just, like make abominations.
I've seen 4 people get in bed. No.
I thought you deleted that stuff off of your desktop there before we started there, Andrew. Anyway, so that's one way. That's one way. If Konami goes out of their way to apologize and to have Kojima take over and do some stuff, right?
And publicly humiliate those who humiliated him.
Yeah. The only other way that Konami can survive is if they double down on everything they've ever done. We're talking the arcade Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade X-Men, all of their arcade properties, Sunset Riders. Put those on Steam in order to make a ton of money, which is exactly what Sega has been doing. Capcom has kind of been doing that too, only it's like they produce arcade quality stuff for your home and for the PC. So Capcom managed to survive that way. Konami could do that, but they would have to pull out of their mentality of pachinko only from now on. They would also have to try...
pachinko's okay, but it shouldn't be your focus.
I don't know. There's so many theories about why the CEO has gone on a pachinko thing. I'm not going to subscribe to any of them because I don't know that CEO. I don't know what his personal life is. I'm sure people can find any number of rumors and say any number of bad things about him. But, they would have to be able to make money off of everything they have ever done. And that, I think Gauntlet was Konami too, wasn't it?
I don't know, but I
may be wrong.
I know that Tiny Toon Adventures Buster's Hidden Treasure on the Sega Genesis was, and that was awesome.
Well, they would have to release everything, and do a Steam port and they're not doing that from what I can tell. They're not even touching that. Capcom came back from the brink of destruction. They had less than 130 million in the bank. Now, 130 million for us would be like we're set for life. But we're talking about a game company that has hundreds of employees and spends $80 million on a product to ship to the stores.
So
130 million is
back?
Almost bankrupt. Capcom did exactly what I said Konami should do, and what other people have said Konami should do, and that is they put everything they owned on Steam for PC. Everything they've owned that they could own out for people to buy. eShops at the Wii U store. They did what they could with Sony. They just pimped everything out. And they managed to make a few Hail Marys. Well, some people say Hail Marys. I don't think that's Hail Marys. You release Street Fighter 2 or Street Fighter as a collection with remastered high definition, people are going to buy it. I think that was a guaranteed sale for them, and they managed to recover, about 100 million or whatever. They were at like 250 million within like 6 months, and now they're in no danger of going bankrupt, right? But they were 2 titles away. It was, what was it, 3 years ago or 2 years ago, 2.5? They were 2 major video game titles away from going bankrupt. If those video game titles... No, I'm just saying, because it cost like 70 to 80 million, and they only had 130 million in the bank, they could have maybe produced 2 extra titles before going bankrupt, and that would have been the swan song. But they decided to sell everything they had, and they made a comeback, right? They still aren't making any new Mega Mans. A lot of people say
they did have, with the Legacy Collection, they had a poll or something in Japan where people could vote what they want to see more of from that series. And I don't remember specifically what was on it, but it was like, do you want to see more of X? Do you want to see more of Classic? Like, They had certain questions. So it looks like they're interested in seeing what the fans want. I mean, as if they weren't vocal enough.
The fans also want the creator of Mega Man to do it. And the creator of Mega Man, we all know he went off to do Mighty No. 9, and he didn't know how to handle his money, went through 3 Kickstarters, if I remember correctly, and then produced Mighty No. 9, which was just total Mega Man, only it was a little bit of a bland version of Mega Man, and that upset a lot of fans.
Or as some people like to call Mighty Blunder 9.
Well, yeah, I think people are too hard on it. I think people are too hard on it.
I thought it was at least an okay game. I enjoyed it. It had some flaws. It wasn't perfect, but it certainly by all means wasn't a bad game.
I think that most of the people who were upset with it, and I don't know if you'll agree with me on this. I agree with you that it wasn't a bad game. I haven't played it, but I've watched it. I've read people's reviews. It seems like everybody says what you have said. It wasn't really a bad game. It just didn't add, it was like missing some spice to it. And then they come up with the big complaint of he went through 3 Kickstarters and millions of dollars to produce something that indie studios have produced before.
It was the story behind it and the expectations.
Yeah.
That's what brought it down.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of sad, because that just means that he struggled with financing, and he was still thinking like he was in a big studio of Capcom. He didn't know how to downscale expectations or downscale what people need to do in order to work. And I mean, that's difficult. Speaking as somebody who's been struggling to keep 3 video game projects alive, it's a pain in the butt to try and get funding just to pay people. Isn't that
Even
right,
when you
Andrew?
have millions of dollars? Yes. Can you hear the shackling of my chains? Feed me!
Dude, if I had you in chains, I'd be done with David by now. Let me tell you that much. I would have you on the rack, and you'd be, well, except then I'd ruin your hands. I need your hands to draw. But I mean, the point though is it's a pain in the butt to do stuff. So
I wish I had funding for my comic series. I would pay everybody involved in it, and one of the reasons why it slowed down is because the one patron that I did have kind of just never renewed his credit card according to him. And like the website still says I have a patron like under that tier that he subscribed to, but it says 0 patrons. So I don't know what's going on with that. But so I'm just gonna have to keep saving up to pay the people who, like, I have no choice but to pay them, and hopefully something works out and maybe it'll get more popular, and then I would love to put out a page a week, but that is just not happening right now.
Well, all you listeners, all 9,000 of you, because we're over 9,000.
No.
Oh, we're not over 9,000?
No, it's like one person. No,
okay.
I think I got like 9 listeners now.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to multiply all of you by 1,000 because I like the word 9,000 better.
It's still not over 9,000.
You're such a killjoy. Nobody fund his stuff, okay?
I'm
joking.
I listened to it, so it's 9,001.
Okay, all right, it's 9,001. All of you guys, you know what you could do if you want to help us out? We're not like PBS. You don't have to donate money. But it would be cool if you got Baby Eater and, See, each of us is going to be selling it through our own accounts. Like, I'm getting money from Baby Eater, and that's 50 cents. You can buy it for 50 cents on Itch.io. The cost of an arcade game, 2 quarters, right?
Yes.
The other thing that's going to be released is the soundtrack. All the monies from the soundtrack is going to our music man. Lazaro, I think is how you pronounce his name.
I thought it was Lazaro, but maybe
it's
Lazaro.
It may be
Lazaro. I don't know.
I'm a horrible person. I misspelled, mispronounce, and misspelled.
That's not the reason why you're a horrible person. Let's be honest.
Listen, we're not talking about our war crimes in the public, okay? I'm still trying to evade the Hague. But Andrew's going to get all of the money from the fake magazine and comic that we're doing together. And I say, all of us work together on the various aspects, but it's easier to split it up into those 3 sales modules and purchase schemes so that we can make money, etc., etc., etc. So, at 50 cents, it'd help us out, especially if you left some reviews and gave a share. And that'd be a way for us to reach more people and make a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, a little bit adds up, and that helps us to continue to do what we're doing.
Even just the exposure,
Yeah.
Just spreading it around and having people see that, hey, there's hopefully up and coming video game company here who have some neat ideas and an amazing artist with his own podcast.
You're competing against another artist with a podcast?
Yeah, it's you.
I'm not an artist.
You were supposed to go along with the joke.
Well, I did make some 8-bit art. Maybe I should take it to New York, be the next Andy Warhol of 8-bit artwork.
I had to take your 8-bit and make sense out of it, so... Which was actually a fun experience, I must say.
Well,
in the
good.
comic, like those demons from the White Crypts.
Oh, yeah.
Do they have names?
No, I never gave them names. I could give them names if you want me to, but I don't know.
That was an interesting experience, trying to figure out how I was going to design them based on the bits. And, like, there were spots of white...
names. I gave them names and I messaged it to you. It's somewhere in our conversation, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure they had names.
Yeah.
Wait, I have these files right in front of me. I wonder if there are names in them. Nope. Blood Demon, I wrote for one of them, and the other one says Fire Demon, so...
Yeah.
No, I think those were the files that they came with. So there was a Blood and Fire Demon. So, but anyway, they're on the little sprites. They have like dots, like pixels of white on the wings. So I kind of was just like, maybe these could be spikes protruding from the wings. So I kind of like tried to like create these designs based on these like 8-bit sprites, which was an interesting experience. And I hope they came out good. I think you liked them. I like the way they came out. One of them looked like a cow. It's
well,
like a cow.
I hope you're proud of yourself.
Oh, I am.
Good. I'm glad.
Good. Oh, I'm glad you're glad.
I'm sorry if it sounded sarcastic.
I'm sorry, it's sarcastic. I just have that way of speaking. But yeah, I have quite a bit of references in here. But anyway, I think we're probably about the hour mark. It was like...
Yeah, we're at an hour and a minute.
Cool.
I'm sure you're going to edit out half of what I was saying. You know, just so everybody knows, and so you're not wondering, I was saying a lot of very lewd and disgusting things that would make Trump blush. And so I'm sure that Andrew edited it all out. So you're going to have a lot of cuts in audio. Just know that what I said was truly the worst thing that could ever come out of anyone's mouth.
No, it wasn't. No, yeah, if it was like physical stuff that came out of your mouth. Like you shitting from your mouth.
Okay, we just edited another portion of the conversation, and none of you will know what Andrew just said.
I'm assuming that means you want me to edit that.
We just edited another portion of the conversation.
Okay. Right. So, anyway, moving on. I don't think we have... Well, I know we don't have any comments this week. So... I guess that's pretty much it. Unless you want... I'm kind of curious as to your answer to a question I got last week.
Okay, what?
It was... let me see if I can pull up the exact question before I try to figure
Werewolf
it out.
Queen. The answer is always Werewolf Queen.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Oh, God. Okay. Last week, I had a question from Heidi Tabbing, who asked what inspires your villains, and she was talking about my writing for my comic, and I'm interested to know what inspires your villains that you write, because you actually write novels.
Now do you mean what actually inspires the villains that I write about, or what inspires me to create the type of villain that I create?
I believe the second thing you said.
Okay, because my villains are usually inspired by some really bad people in their own lives.
Like
me. No, in all seriousness, no. Both versions of that question are good questions to ask, because one of them is a backstory question. Mm-hmm. And the other is asking for me to give you a lot of bullshit and make up stuff to sound like I'm smart.
You mean you're not?
Shush!
Shush!
Hogan!
I don't know what that's a reference to.
You never will.
It's a villain that you haven't written yet.
No, it's Colonel Klink from Hogan's Heroes, man.
I don't know what that is.
I know. That's why I made the reference. See, I'm a horrible person. What inspires me is my own life and how I treat Andrew. That's really what inspires me.
So inspired you before you met me. That's the secret. You weren't inspired. Good night, everybody.
No, there was another Andrew before you, and then I had to put him down.
What I don't know is I was like a clone. I'm like Andrew number 5073.
That's kind of low.
Okay.
Anyway, so
But Kevin doesn't. Says that I'm just a figment of his imagination.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people who answer this question give a lot of bullshit. Mm-hmm. They give a lot of bullshit
probably
by saying...
like bullshit that I said last week because I couldn't come up with a great answer. So
what'd you say?
I don't even remember. You'll have to listen to it. You'll have to actually listen to it.
So it was bullshit. Anyway, they'll usually go on to these pontifications of, oh, I think this needs to this, and this needs to this, and that, and this, and that, and this, and that. And what they talk about is formula, and formula is crap.
Yeah, I don't really
like not Scottish, and if it's not Scottish, it's crap.
It's crap.
But,
What's my baby back?
So, anyway, the whole point, though, is that, villains aren't villains for the sake of being villains. If a villain is a villain for the sake of being a villain, then you're creating a two-dimensional cardboard piece of trash. Sometimes two-dimensional cardboard pieces of trash are what you need to progress on to something else.
Sometimes that is the villain, though. Like, sometimes a villain can be that, but, like, you shouldn't rely on that. But, like, a villain can be that. It just depends on how you do it.
I guess. Yeah, that's true. But the biggest problem with people who try to say I shouldn't say people who try to say, because it sounds like I'm insulting the question asker here, and I'm not insulting the asker of questions.
You're just being a hypocrite.
I'm not
talking about yourself.
I'm not trying to insult people here. The biggest problem from a production standpoint, and I don't mean this in assaulting anyone unless they're Jar Jar Abrams, is the whole idea that stories must have a certain progression. Stories, I mean, that's when you're locking yourself into a formula. And progression exists. You have to have a beginning of some sort. You have to have an end of some sort. You have to have something to overcome. Now, something to overcome doesn't mean that there's a resolution. The resolution may be a lack of resolution. A lot of people don't understand what I mean by that. But it really is true.
And they never will.
Yeah. It really is true, though. The lack of a resolution can be a resolution if handled properly. There's so many examples of that. I mean, I would have to go into detail to explain what that means. But I don't mean cliffhangers. Cliffhangers aren't the same thing as having a lack of resolution. A great example. A great example would be a Star Trek, the original series episode, where they go to a planet that's full of people that move super fast, right? The conflict is two societies who want to survive. The people who move super fast and the people on the Enterprise. And the people on the Enterprise are a society from the position of a psychological viewpoint. It's a ship. They're part of a larger society, the Federation, but on that ship, the society is, the captain is the leader. And everyone else is, below on the chain of command. But at the same time, he has to listen to everyone else. So that's their society. The society on the planet is similar. They have a chain of command there, too. The people on the planet that are moving fast want to try and basically kidnap some people from the Enterprise to clone or have babies with, whatever it is that they want. And I'm sure somebody's going to correct me. But the point is that in order to propagate and continue their species beyond their dwindling numbers, which is a big problem for them. The resolution is a non-resolution. Kirk manages to basically escape the people and leave those people back on the planet, and then puts a Federation warning buoy out saying, don't come near this planet. The people on the planet still have their conflict. They aren't dead. They send a transmission where they just stand still so that the people on the Enterprise can see the people that the people on the Enterprise have condemned to death, basically. But you're not really sure if they're going to die. There isn't a certainty of them dying. You don't know if the Federation is going to come back and help them out, because the Federation does like to help societies out. They may actually come back and help those people, but you don't know that. So it's a non-resolution ending. And that's because a minor resolution was reached, and minor resolution was Kirk and the crew escape. But the thing is still open-ended. And, so a lot of people don't understand that. And this is about a villain, right?
Yeah.
Villains aren't created for the heroes. Villains are people who have existed in and grown out of a source that fostered their mentality or their behavior. That could be broken genetics, broken society, abusive society. They may not even be the worst people that came from wherever they came.
Well, oftentimes opposing ideals.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's when you get to a point is where they may not necessarily be a villain. They may just have done something wrong. They may just be wrong.
Right.
Or maybe they aren't wrong at all. Maybe they're entirely right from their viewpoint, but they have to lose, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they don't lose. Maybe they win. Maybe the protagonist wins. That's when we're starting to talk about protagonists or antagonists. You can also get into a discussion of a situation where the antagonist is a situation and the two people who are against each other are both protagonists and neither one is evil. But
in
for
a
villain to be
like Naruto and Sasuke.
Okay, I'll take your word for that. I don't know Naruto.
Okay.
But the thing, though, is for a villain to be a villain, they have to have an actual reason. And it has to be more than just a backstory, a simple backstory. They actually have to have an ideology. Otherwise, they're nothing. Like Lex Luthor, the reason why he wasn't Superman's first villain.
Who was Superman's first villain?
Superman went up against dictators and everything before Lex Luthor really appeared.
Oh yeah, before supervillains, they were just regular, criminals.
Well, yeah, to a degree. But
who was the first supervillain?
Oh, dude, I don't know.
Oh, well, you should have known this stuff. Nah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get on. Anyway, so Lex Luthor, he wasn't the first villain for Superman. But he was the first one who actually had an ideology. And his ideology was that man does not need anyone else to make them super. Man does not need anything outside of them to make them super. Man is great, and man can reach potential. But man has to take that potential at every opportunity at a time. And anything that doesn't take that potential is limiting mankind and should be exterminated. So
interesting.
He was about the perfection of mankind, and anything that is imperfect should be killed and removed.
As they should. No.
Yeah, he is like the epitome of the worst ideology that mankind can foster. It's like the ideology.
It's like Hitler.
It's like Hitler. It's like the communists. It's like the Mayas. It's like the Incas. It's like the some groups of the Egyptians. The certain dynasties of the Egyptians felt that way. We're talking about a way of thinking that still exists today. So, in that respect, it's not. Lex Luthor was the embodiment of everything that's wrong with humanity, while marrying it with what should be a good ideal. And the good ideal is striving for something better, right? Except yeah. Lex Luthor is striving for something better through destruction and pain for anyone who opposes him. Superman is, let's strive for something better together. Unfortunately, I can't make you do it. You have to make the choice on your own. So he's the antithesis of Lex Luthor, and he existed before Lex Luthor existed. So, that, and in many ways, that's also the Khan Noonien Singh from Star Trek has the same idea as Lex Luthor. the same ideals, the same, self-gratification, self-importance, and then everyone else needs to perish if they stand in his way. So, in that respect, you have to know what the psychology is in creating an opposing force to the hero.
Right.
And you have to know your own hero to do that. In many instances, the hero will exist long before the villain. Whether that hero is in existence in print or whether it's something in your mind. Oh, I want to make a cool guy who does this. Okay, well, what would I do if I'm heroic? Well, I'd be doing this, this, and this. What would somebody be if they're opposing them? And then you start thinking of all the qualities that your hero has and all the qualities that your hero is absent from, that they're absent from your hero. And you start creating those, you start putting those together in whatever primordial soup you have as an imagination to create your villain. And that's when you start getting a decent villain. But that's only part of it. The other part is, why would somebody think like that? Are you going to? Are you just going to draw a picture and say, okay, this guy thinks like that?
Yes.
Okay, well that's well, Jar Jar Abrams does that all the time. Michael Spade and Neuter does that all the time. They just say, this is what he should be. Okay, well, no, you got half of it right. And that's why you're half as successful as you could be, otherwise. For everyone who's telling me about how much Michael Bay makes and how much Jar Jar Abrams makes, they have disappointed their studio, intake. Michael Bay has really bombed in about half of his movies. I mean, bombed really big. And Abrams has only pulled in half of what he should have with Star Trek. And I believe that's because...
All of them, or just the recent one?
No, all of them.
Oh.
That's a topic for another day. The point,
it's
though,
also not video game related, but it's also an interesting topic.
The point, and this is the big point of the whole thing. If you half-ass it, you're going to get half of your potential out there. Now, you could still make millions while half-assing. But you'd be missing out on the millions more if you full-ass it.
You'd be missing out on the other half of millions.
Exactly. Now,
you want times 2 the money, you gotta put in times 2 the effort.
Yeah. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you're guaranteed lots of money if you do everything right. There's no guarantee in life. But, even for yourself and for your own personal integrity and how you look at something, you really have to think things through before you go through it. You can't just say, well, he has to have this ideology, so that's what makes him bad. That's not... That may be what makes him bad, but that's not what makes... Or her. I keep saying him, because I'm thinking of Lex Luthor. But, it could be her, it could be an it, or whatever. What makes the character a character is, how did they get to that point? What was the psychology? What was their place of origin? How were they developed? How did this happen? What made them evolve in this way? And if you're going to choose a medical decision, you better make it something better than, oh, they were killed and raised from the dead, so now they're evil. That's just a tired old cliche of...
Nazi zombies.
We're turning them to evil, right? Oh, zombies. I have a serious problem with zombies because, I mean... If they're willless creatures that have no thoughts, they can't be evil. They're just like a force of nature, like a bug that has, even bugs have more thoughts than zombies.
I've never really seen zombies as evil because of that.
Yeah,
they're just like, it's like calling a wolf evil because it's trying to eat prey.
Yeah,
you know?
I know, and it gets really, zombies is probably the most overused bad guy just because you can make it look gory and put the least amount of effort you can put into them. You know, and I'm not saying that there aren't any good zombie movies or zombie shows. I mean, there are. I've seen a couple of them, but you gotta know what the source of the motivation is before you do the motivation. That source has got to be true to life.
Yeah.
You know, if you have some guy that you're calling a serial killer just going around, he's just killing random people, well, then he's not a serial killer. Serial killers have a method to their madness.
Yeah, they go after cereal.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's the point. Because serial killer, it means that they have to do things because they're obsessive-compulsive in certain ways. I mean, the worst bad guy that I've seen in a while was for Flash Season 2, and I just stopped watching it. It was... that's when I got turned off of Flash, and I thought Season 1 of The Flash was the greatest superhero television show I've ever seen, and Season 2 was the worst, because he was going up against a new version of Professor Zoom, or Reverse Flash. This one was Professor Zoom. I haven't watched it,
but I want to watch Flash.
Well, watch the first season, don't watch the rest. But the Professor Zoom, in 4 episodes in a row, he would show up in the Gotham City Police Department and say, "I am Professor Zoom, you will bow before me, and I'm going to start killing people." And the explanation, the worst explanation I heard from anyone was, well, he's a serial killer, that's what he does. No! That's not what serial killers do. Just look it up in a dictionary, look up a psychological profile of serial killers, look up somebody like Ted Bundy, or look up, Manson to an extent was a serial killer. Look up the Zodiac Killer, look up anybody like that, and they'll tell you that it has to be from a certain type of profile. They only do certain actions. Even serial rapists are like that. They only do certain actions certain times. They don't just randomly pick people or say, I'm going to start killing them, and then just start killing them. That's just a mass murderer, okay? If you're going to make a mass murderer, make a mass murderer. If you're going to make a serial killer, make a serial killer. You have to know what the psychology is, what the behavior is, what other people in that situation have done. You don't need to copy everything somebody else has done, but you need to at least understand why certain triggers were triggers in the first place for those deeds and that evil to happen, right? And
yeah,
that's
true.
That's the long story, the long answer for that question. You can't just half-ass it. You gotta determine what the ideology or the credo or the morality or the thought process is, and then, or maybe before then, whichever side you want to do first, you have to decide and look up how exactly that could have happened.
Yeah, true.
And just tossing people in radioactive pits, just randomly saying stuff.
It's not good. It's good for that type. That it's like if that's what you're going for, and you know that it's not as in depth as you were talking about, like you can have fun with it.
Well, yeah, you can have fun with it,
yeah.
But you gotta understand exactly how that's going to affect the hero and how that's going to affect the story.
Because in a, I don't know if you would call it hypocritical or not, but in the beginning we were talking about how we don't really like to follow formulas. Now we're kind of talking about a formula, so...
No, you don't understand, no. Formula is different than following, I like to break it up as a formula and a recipe. A formula is... Okay, wait, here's an example. When a lot of people are going into a creative writing course, they're told to plot out their entire novel by a lot of really stupid teachers. Make sure your person does this on this page, and in this chapter they have to do this, and in this chapter they have to do this. Plot it out first, and then write the dialogue to fit it. That's formula.
I feel like that's very limiting.
It is.
It's like, well, I want to write more, or I don't want to write as much.
Yeah, and I've never read a good book that follows that kind of formula, for doing it. But if you have a recipe by saying, okay, I'm writing a book. I've decided that some of these things are going to happen. This event will happen. This event will happen. That will cause, this event has to happen. So how are my characters going to react? Well, they're going to have to react like this. So that means this event has to happen. And how are they going to react? They're probably going to react like this. So this event is probably going to happen. Okay, now I have a general idea for the type of book that I'm going to be writing. And then I go in, and any one of those things could happen as I'm writing, or maybe something that I originally wanted to happen just doesn't happen because I realize, okay, wait, the characters actually can't do that because their behavior, how I've been writing them, they don't do that. So I ignore that part, and I have a different plan for how it finishes. Now, that's not the same thing as by your seat, edge of your seat, flying, shooting from the hip. Well, some people try to say that's shooting from the hip. No, because you actually know in general what your book is about. And that's like writing a synopsis. Well, my book, this, and this happens, and yeah, this is how the book will probably end. And then you go through and you write it. Whatever needs to take place in whatever order, you will know as you're writing.
Yeah.
Because you're the writer.
I go through revisions myself. Formula, I mean,
formula is different.
I would say
it's restrictive.
I would say to use your typical formulas, guidelines, rules, whatever, as like something to guide you and not abide by.
Yeah. I mean, the only formulas that you should follow are research your topic and don't follow a formula. So, I mean, you could call that an oxymoron there, but you do need to research. Research isn't the same thing as writing. Research is building up your own knowledge base, and it's all part of the creation for what you're going to put out there. And that's the extent of formula you should follow is, just research, know what you're doing. Research could mean any number of things. Maybe research means you watch a History Channel program, or maybe research means you open up a dictionary, or maybe research means you go down to the library. However you get your information, make sure that you have information. It doesn't mean that you have to be a psychiatrist if you're going to, make a little psychological profile of your characters and a synopsis of your life. You don't need to be a psychiatrist for that. Anybody can do that if they pay attention and they try to learn and they try to, create on that level. So, you can't, if you're setting out to just create a villain, you got to know exactly what you're doing beforehand. You got to know exactly what's happening beforehand. Or maybe your villain suddenly appears without you realizing it. That happened to me in that book that I was writing. I realized that the one character would have been a bad person in order to be in their position. And but instead of actually going into their motivation, I just made them like a threat, a distant threat where, okay, this person is obviously a bad person. We're going to stay away from them. And that was most of the book, is them staying away from this person they knew had to be a bad person. That person is probably never going to show up again.
And which book is this?
Gab, it's on my Patreon site.
Oh, right.
And I'm sure you're going to share a link with this to show people.
Yeah, I was gonna say instead of us telling people what links I'm just gonna be like, oh, check the links.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna have all the links in the description.
But the thing is, what makes that person so bad then? And it's a guard. It's actually a guard who rides a giant cat. What makes them so bad and so scary isn't that they are threatening the hero. It's that all of a sudden the heroes, or your heroes of the book, realize this person is clearly not a very good person, and they clearly have ulterior motives. We don't know what this person's ulterior motives is or are, and the fact this person is in power means that other people have the same motives. That means that there is an entire system of bad people out there, and that's frightening we have to get in touch with the people who are good people to give this information to them. So they don't necessarily, like, the villain doesn't necessarily have to be, if you don't want to flesh them out, they could be like that, in which case you have to start explaining the society, and you have to start explaining how a group of people could share the same ideals and how those ideals could actually be bad or lead to bad things. So essentially in that, in my book, I'm almost like creating a sort of fascist state, or a mafioso type of syndicate, and you don't need to know that person personally to know bad stuff will happen if you're caught in an alley with them after dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, as I was saying before, I will have all the links in the description for any of our social media, any of our other projects, not projects, any of our projects, and just anything else we want to throw on the link. If you're listening to this on SoundCloud, hopefully you can view that description. I don't know how the mobile version of that works, if you even are using a mobile version. When I put it on YouTube, check the links in the description on YouTube. You can check the Facebook page. I have Tumblr, Twitter, blah, 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 and that's all in the description. So, I think that's going to do it for today, and I don't have an outro or intro theme yet. Actually, the same composer who's working on the music or worked on the music for Baby Eater is the one who is currently working on an intro and outro for this podcast, which will be exciting to get when that's done, and we'll finally have an intro and outro. I also have a couple of people interested in helping out with co-hosting. Kevin, if you're around next week, you can jump in again, and I think that's pretty much it. Anything else you want to close with?
Give me money.
Okay.
No, seriously, check out my stuff. Anything like with the Patreon or with whatever. Even if you check out my nonprofit or I don't, whatever you buy from me goes on to these projects. It goes on to paying Andrew. Goes on to getting things done, and you'd be supporting an indie creator. Who's trying to make things that you would enjoy.
Creators.
Who cares about you?
I'm joking. Well, the other people.
I know.
I was gonna say, we didn't talk about games we played this week, or really games coming out. But that's okay because we did discuss video game related topics, and I think a lot of what the villain writing could also be applied to writing for games as well, because
it's for
as
anything.
we were talking about, right, as we were talking about with the way you write villains, or what inspires your villains, your short story of Davin McDurrin, or the Adventures of Davin McDurrin, that inspired the video game that we're working on. So it's all related to video games. Everything comes back. And so it was video games in the beginning, and so it shall be video games forevermore. That's going to do it for today. And as always, good gaming and good night.
Maybe I should take over where Barry White left off.
Okay.